Okay. Because I was going to ask how the New York phone number came into play. Oops, if you were from here. What part of New York?
Long Island.
Okay. I was born in Staten Island.
Oh, okay. I've actually never been.
Really?
Yeah, I've never been to any of the real New York things. Like, I've never been to State University.
Oh, wow. See, there was one trip where I was like, okay, I'm going to do all the touristy things. Because I wound up being in New York for about a 10-day stretch.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I got tons of time. Let me do some of the touristy things that I haven't done yet. So you should. I don't know if you want to close the door just so that way anybody walking by, you won't get noise and traffic. So yeah, it was funny because of all the trips that I have done going to New York, I had not done that, and I thought, you gotta do that. Yeah.
I'm like, I can't really say I'm from New York and I've never been to these places.
Exactly. And it's like when people come here to DC and they're always like, oh, I want to go do this and I want to go do that. And I'm like, oh, I've been there so many times. But, it's all new to them, so you have to be like, okay, no problem. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Do you like the DC area as opposed to New York?
So I do actually, because my thing with New York is after I'm there for a couple of days, I start to feel claustrophobic.
Okay.
And in part because I live in Virginia.
Okay.
And the reason why I live in Virginia is because I like open spaces.
Because the DC traffic is crazy.
DC traffic is nuts, but compared to New York.
Yeah.
I'm like, I drove in New York and I said, it's like a game of inches. It's just like Boston. It's like people come so close to your car and give you all kinds of anxiety. So I'm like, yeah, even though this traffic is crazy, I'll still take this traffic over driving in New York or Boston any day.
It's like a fine medium between, too much and not enough. So
Yeah. So, but will you go back to New York when you're done with school?
I'll go back if I have a job. Because I don't want to just go back and sit around, I really would like to work, if I could, work in the city and, get into the industry that way. But I really like D.C., so I wouldn't mind staying here.
What are your goals when you graduate?
Well, at first I wanted to get into radio and television and in front of the camera type of thing.
Okay.
But I recently interned at TV One this summer down in Silver Spring, and I kind of got a chance to fill out different departments. So now I kind of think I want to get into marketing.
Okay.
Which is kind of different, but yeah.
Well, but honestly, having that journalism background really helps you with marketing as well. So, and especially now when everything is 24/7 and you've got to be able to cater people and and give them immediate attention right away. There's a lot of journalism aspects to that.
So I feel like I can pretty much do a lot with this degree.
Mm-hmm.
And my minor's business, so I guess marketing is kind of in between both of them.
Okay, you should look at interning with a place like PR Newswire or something like that, where you kind of see where the journalism aspect and the marketing and promotion aspect meet. So, think about doing something like that for one of your internships.
Okay, yeah, I will definitely look into that.
Okay.
Let me just check to see. I think my position is perfect. Actually, yes, it is perfect.
Okay. All right.
And I just asked, when we're talking, can you just look at me and not the camera?
Sure.
I know a lot of people kind of have.
Oh no, yeah.
So, I'm gonna start off by asking, are there any statistics that correlate with social media safety and the millennial demographic in particular?
Well, there are a number of statistics out there, from how many young people get bullied online to cyber stalking. So it really runs the gamut in terms of numbers. They're not always consistent, but typically what we find in terms of, for example, cyberbullying is that typically 1 in 4 millennials have been cyberbullied in some way, shape, or form online.
Okay. And what are the most common crimes you see with social media and safety? Because I know some people, it's not just, people being lured online getting raped. It could be like home invasion or kidnapping. So what are the most common crimes you see with our demographic specifically?
Really, aside from cyberbullying, you also see people getting cyber stalked. You see young people having their identity stolen because they're sharing too much personal information. And of course, you see people having issues with home invasions, robberies, because of the amount of information that people tend to share online. We tend to forget that our online community, everybody can see what we're posting. And so it may not just be our friends that we're sharing that information with. We could be sharing it with people who really mean to do us harm.
And do you think the millennial demographic is, I know they're among the multiple generations who actually go on Facebook, go on Instagram, post things, and not really conscious of what they're doing. Do you think our demographic is more lackadaisical with the things we actually post on there as far as information, or do you think maybe it's not us and maybe it's the older generations who actually are less conscious of what they're posting?
I actually find that now it's very interesting that I think that is kind of evening out across the board, that young people do share a lot of information. Millennials share a lot of information online. And it's because you're used to being online all the time. Your virtual reality and your real world reality are one and the same. But for older people, it tends to be where we're still a little more cautious about what we share, but we're starting to break down those barriers among the older people too, because there's so many different apps and social networks out there that now we're not thinking as much about the kind of information that we're sharing. So I really think that in terms of that, it's starting to merge, and we all need to do a better job of making sure we are thinking about what we're posting, what we're sharing before we do it, because we do tend to overshare on social media.
I'm sorry, I don't want to stop your flow. I just want
Oh, it's okay. Just double check, make sure.
This thing has a tendency to do it.
That's fine.
Okay, and is there one app that you see more crime come from? Maybe more crime comes from Facebook, users of Twitter, users of Instagram, maybe users of Snapchat?
There really hasn't been a study on that yet. I know that from the perspective of law enforcement, they have been able to use things like Facebook and Twitter to be able to track some criminals and be able to apprehend them because of what they're posting online. So social media from that aspect with law enforcement is really becoming a very useful tool for them. There really isn't a statistic out there yet that talks about where criminals are picking up their information, but obviously Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, they're very, very popular right now. And so I imagine that criminals are using one and all of them to try to get a picture of what we're doing and where we are and what kind of information they can glean from us. So cyber hackers are out there. They're looking to see how much we have, kind of closed off our online personalities. Have we done all the private settings that we need to do? Have we removed personal information that, if they're clever enough, they could get to? So those are the things that we really need to be focused on, is how you protect yourself as best you can, what kind of information is good to share, and what kind of information you want to keep private and keep to yourself.
Right. And to go along with the law enforcement aspect, I know a lot of upper generation people may not necessarily know how to use Snapchat or may not know how to use Periscope, whereas Facebook and Twitter are a little more common. So do you think that some of the problem in catching these criminals may lie there, where that they might not be as savvy to use these apps, so they might not be able to, catch those criminals on those platforms as opposed to these platforms?
Well, what's interesting with social media and all the apps is there's a new one every second. So it is really hard to keep up with technology, and it can be hard for law enforcement to keep up with technology. But then when you add in the older generation of folks who haven't grown up with all of this technology the way that millennials do, sometimes they do wind up in, some pitfalls and doing some things that might not be the safest practice. But generally, I don't think that that's just pertaining to older people online. I think it's everyone. We all fall into that pitfall of thinking we're just sharing between you and me, and instead it's everybody out there that can see our information and see our pages. And even things like Snapchat, even though that goes away pretty quickly, there's still a window where someone, if they're savvy enough, can still be able to save that information and use it later. So we have to be thinking more carefully about things like, when I post this picture, I don't need to check in and tell people this is where I'm at, because anybody that has any other information about us, where we live, the neighborhood that we're in, you've just given them a clear signal that you're not home. And that's an opportunity for them. If someone is trying to cyberstalk you, then you've checked in somewhere. Well, now they know where to find you. So those are the things that we really have to be careful about. And I think that it's incumbent upon all of us as new technology emerges to know what we're getting into, know the potential pitfalls of it,